Hi everyone, I'm Carol Ann Riddell and welcome to Arts in the City. First up today, the Whitney Museum of American Art is celebrating the enduring legacy of visionary artist and choreographer Alvin Ailey. Our Andrew Falzone takes us inside the new exhibit.
6 years in the making and delayed due to the pandemic, Edges of Ailey is the newest exhibit on display at the Whitney Museum of American Art, capturing the life, times, and ethos of one of the best-known creators in the dance world, Alvin Ailey.
This is one of the most exciting and ambitious projects in the history of the Whitney Museum. We partnered very closely with the Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater, which was an incredible collaboration for us, relying on their talent in terms of their dancers, their choreographers, also their knowledge.
Colossal in its scope and size, the exhibit occupies 18,000 square feet on the museum's fifth floor, filled with artwork from over 80 artists who were inspired by Ailey or inspiration to the man himself.
He was one of the great artistic geniuses of the 20th century in any medium, and to me, his work tells the story of America from, his poor and difficult upbringing to become someone who actually danced in Lyndon Johnson's White House.
The exhibit is mapped into sections based on theme, exploring everything from Ailey's deep connection to music, his impoverished upbringing in Texas, and his introspective thoughts on his own experience as and the struggles of his fellow Black Americans, and his identity as a gay man living with AIDS. Wrapping one side of the gallery, which is half the size of a football field, is a video surround which includes Ailey interviews, commentaries, and company performances. On display, a piece from the renowned Brooklyn artist Jean-Michel Basquiat entitled Hollywood Africans, Basquiat's response to the portrayal of African Americans in Hollywood, one of the many stages where Ailey's work found an audience.
I like to think also that the Black experience is to some degree an American experience. This is not a show for any particular niche interest group. This is a show about all of us. And there are so many Black experiences that we have to acknowledge. Alvin Ailey was a gay man who died of AIDS, wasn't quite out in the way that we think of today, but there's a story there to explore. There's the story of the Great Migration, of coming from the South to first the West, in his case, to Los Angeles, and then the North, to find a better life that was more free of the difficulties he faced in Texas.
In addition to the archival pieces on display, a select number of original commissions were created for the show, including the piece Flytrap by Lynette Yadambachi and a yet-to-be-titled abstract portrait of Ailey by Jennifer Packer.
Our curator, Adrienne Edwards, invited different visual artists to make new work thinking about Alvin Ailey's legacy. And so you have actually works in this show that were commissioned, have never been seen before for the exhibition.
The exhibit is as much about history as it is about art, with entire walls dedicated to the posters that once promoted Ailey's performances and those of his dance companies. Additionally, personal notes and letters from external archives devoted to Ailey's history are also on display, some of them for the first time.
There are still people alive who knew Mr. Ailey, and they contributed to the catalog and to the thinking around the show.
Complementing the gallery exhibit is an ongoing series of dance performances in the museum's theater, set up to reflect Ailey's commitment to building a platform for Black modern dancers and choreographers.
This is probably the most dynamic show in the history of the museum, and in many ways it's very participatory. Of course, you can come and dance with the company.
Thanks to some very generous donations to the Whitney, the museum offers free admission at select times. Visitors can enter for free on Fridays from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. and all day on every second Sunday of the month. Admission is limited and tickets are required, but can be reserved through the museum's website in advance. Edges of Ailey will run at the Whitney Museum of American Art until February 9th, 2025. I'm Andrew Falzone for Arts in the City.
The New York Jewish Film Festival at Lincoln Center is now in its 34th year, showcasing films from around the world that explore the Jewish experience. Neil Rosen sat down with the festival's director.
The New York Jewish Film Festival is among the oldest and most influential Jewish film festivals worldwide. Now in its 34th year, this heralded annual event is a partnership between the Jewish Museum and film at Lincoln Center. The 2025 edition features 23 films from 12 countries. The movies are shown at Lincoln Center's Walter Reed Theater, and they include a wide-ranging slate of exciting features, documentaries, and shorts, as well as several newly restored older films. Aviva Weintraub is the director of the New York Jewish Film Festival.
Our mission at the New York Jewish Film Festival is to present a global lens on the Jewish experience. We're looking for fresh voices. We like to show works by both emerging filmmakers and established filmmakers. We try to have films from many different countries to present a global view of the Jewish experience. We try to have as many premieres as possible, and that's important for us because we want to bring films to our audience that they might not otherwise have the chance to see. We primarily look for new films. We love to bring in filmmakers and other people associated with the productions to discuss the films with our audience. If we do show an older film or an archival film, we'll bring in a speaker, an archivist, or a film scholar. And to that end, we bring in filmmakers from Europe, from Israel, from across the US, and of course, from the 5 boroughs.
Tell me about some of the films that you're showing at this year's New York Jewish Film Festival.
So our opening night film this year is called Midas Man. It's a British production directed by Joe Stevenson, and it's about Brian Epstein, the man who discovered the Beatles and became their manager. He was a gay Jewish man from Liverpool. He had a great sense of taste, style, music, and Brian Epstein was often referred to as the 5th Beatle.
I think you go all the way, and I promise I will look after you.
We're very excited about the film The Glory of Life, a feature film from Germany. It is a look at the last year in the life of Franz Kafka and a romance that he shared with Dora Diamant. We're also showing a documentary this year that's fascinating. It's called The Spoils, and it's directed by Jamie Kastner. It tells the story of a German Jewish art dealer named Max Stern, who was forced to flee the Nazis and sell his collection under duress, and the Max Stern Foundation's efforts to restitute his collection. So one of the highlights is our closing film. It's a documentary by Ilana Trachtman. It's called Ain't No Back to a Merry-Go-Round. A group of Black students who rode a segregated carousel in an amusement park in Maryland in 1960. And they were joined by a group of local Jewish community members. This was one of the earliest cases of an interracial civil rights protest in this country.
Also on tap to celebrate its 50th anniversary, a newly restored print of director Joan Micklin Silver's classic film, Hester Street. It takes place in 1896, where a Russian Jewish woman, played by Carol Kane, immigrates to New York's Lower East Side. She's there to reunite with her Americanized husband, but she's having a great deal of difficulty assimilating. With the rise of anti-Semitism around the world these days and in New York, are you showing any films that are addressing this particular problem this year?
The rise in anti-Semitism is certainly on everyone's mind, and including, it was part of our discussions when we were selecting the films. I think there have always been films in our festival that address the question of anti-Semitism, and this year won't be any different.
The New York Jewish Film Festival runs this January 15th through the 29th. For more information, go to their website at nyjff.org. For Arts in the City, I'm Neil Rosen.
Art Deco is a style that still feels incredibly modern, even though it came to New York about 100 years ago. Donna Hanover has more on this bold, colorful look forever associated with our city and its skyline.
Art Deco New York was when the skyscrapers were rising high above the city, creating this image of the city that we think of today, with the beautiful setback tops that are spires in the sky. The Empire State Building, the Chrysler Building. Art Deco is bright colors, the textured surfaces, a streamlined decorative style that was geometric, that was bold.
And New York's Art Deco style that was hot in the 1920s and 30s in architecture, bridges, fashion, entertainment, restaurants, hotels, and travel is on display at the Museum of the City of New York. You might be surprised at how the images have been saved. A curator of the show, Linda Klitsch, is also curator of the Leonard A. Lauder postcard collection.
You can think about the postcard as the Instagram, the Twitter, the TikTok of the day. People use them to send messages rapidly. They were half the price of a letter. They also used them to collect images of places and things that they loved. Like they would these commemorative spoons or this compact as a souvenir to remind them of their visit to the Empire State Building. These postcards come from the collection of Leonard A. Lauder, who has been collecting them since he was 6 years old.
He really started collecting when he was 6 years old?
He did. He would go to Miami Beach with his mother while she was starting the cosmetics company.
Estee Lauder.
Estee Lauder. He would walk up and down Collins Avenue, reaching up to the little desks and taking the free postcards that were there for advertising these new Art Deco buildings. And he collected here in New York, where he took his 5-cent allowance to the Woolworths in the lobby of the Empire State Building.
Lauder's collection covers lots of topics and is housed at the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston. This exhibit brings some of the best cards home. In the early 1900s, postcards were a craze. People mailed billions of them. The New York Art Deco postcards made such an impression around the globe that tourists still want to see those buildings today.
Postcard producers emphasized variety. They would take the same building and print it in different ways, with a bright orange sky, the night sky, the brilliant clouds, just to make people want to buy more and more postcards.
Aviation was also a craze, and aerial photography could show the tops of the amazing skyscrapers. Anna Józefaska, an associate curator of the Leonard A. Lauder collection, helped design this exhibit, and she explains the allure of the style, including the fashions.
Art Deco was extremely glamorous. This was part of the appeal of Art Deco. It was supposed to be flashy, it was supposed to be eye-catching. Art Deco was the first modern style for decorative arts. So it brought unnaturalistic colors and vibrant colors, bold yellows, pinks, oranges, combined with metallics such as silver and gold.
Many of the postcards here have bright candy colors, and some have a lovely sense of humor. For example, these allowed the writer to check, "Hi there, toots, mama, gang, I'm swell, I'm lucky, I'm rushed." And postcards have been created so that visitors now can fill out their own and check, "Hey, New York City is loud, huge, incredible. My favorite food here is a slice, a bagel, a black and white cookie." And you can enter your postcard to potentially win a prize. The exhibit does note one thing ignored in the glamorous publicity of the time is that after the stock market crash of 1929, many people were suffering without jobs or hope through the Great Depression. Some found work building another Art Deco icon, Rockefeller Center, which includes Radio City Music Hall.
Museum of the City of New York is very lucky to have two fabulous original models of the Rockefeller Center.
So these are models of the era?
Oh, absolutely. They were done by the architectural firms who work on the project, who designed Rockefeller Center, and these were the presentation models.
One interesting point, at the time, the style we call Art Deco was not called that. It was called modern, and it faded in the 1940s in favor of a pared-down look, until
Art Deco was rediscovered in the 1960s by curators and design historians. And in the 1960s, it was actually the time when the term Art Deco was invented. To this day, people who travel to New York City want to see the Art Deco buildings. Absolutely, and I think it's a testament to Art Deco postcards that broadcasted and ingrained in people's still popular imagination that moment of New York City.
The exhibit is open through February 17th. I'm Donna Hanover for Arts in the City.
Gypsy, one of Broadway's most beloved musicals, is back this season, starring Tony Award winner Audra McDonald in a groundbreaking production. Patrick Pacheco, host of CUNY TV's Theater All the Moving Parts, has more.
The new revival of Gypsy is one of the most anticipated productions of the season, with Audra McDonald stepping into the iconic role of Mama Rose. You'll be swell. The role has been immortalized by some of Broadway's greatest stars: Ethel Merman, Angela Lansbury, Tyne Daly, Bernadette Peters, and Patti LuPone. I had a dream. Now, McDonald brings a fresh perspective to the quintessential Broadway story, a relentless stage mother pushing her daughters into vaudeville stardom. This latest production, however, marks an historic shift, exploring the intersections of race, family, and ambition in 1920s America through this new lens. And joining me to discuss this exciting production are Andrew Chappelle, actor and filmmaker, Ruthie Fierberg, executive editor of Broadway News, Juan Ramirez, critic for Theaterly, and Michael Riedel, renowned columnist and author. Andrew, what makes it right for 2024, for this moment?
Listen, to be African American in America is a miracle after 400 years of slavery. So the fact that we live in a world where we have Audra McDonald playing Mama Rose, to me, is a marvel. And I think there's also the beautiful layer here to illuminate the Black version of vaudeville. We have never experienced that with Gypsy. It's always being told by white people. So it's like, so now we get to see, hopefully, what was it like for Black performers in this space? And I'm really excited to see it play out in this revival.
Not everyone agrees. Columnist John McWhorter raised concerns about the casting in the New York Times, writing, "The idea that a Black stage mother would be promoting her Black children in the early 1920s with a twee song like May We Entertain You is, frankly, ludicrous. Black performers in that era promoted themselves mainly with, big surprise, Black music." During our fall preview, Broadway podcaster Jan Simpson previously offered this perspective.
This is probably the musical I'm most looking forward to, because the whole idea of Rose being a Black mother in vaudeville and pushing her daughter. I know there's been some pushback about that, about would there be this kind of family? And let me say, yes, there was. This story is a Black story as well as just a universal story.
This adaptation taps into the often overlooked history of Black performers in 1920s America. Opportunities for Blacks in vaudeville were limited. White managers would only book one Black entertainer per show. I never for nobody. Most famously, Burt Williams, who paved the way for some of his other peers, like Josephine Baker and Ethel Waters. George C. Wolfe, who directed Shuffle Along and Jelly's Last Jam on Broadway, emerges as the ideal storyteller to reinterpret this classic.
George C. Wolfe has said, and Audra has said, like, the Blackness is embodied because we are Black bodies on stage. We're not changing words. The time period's not different. We're existing in this thing that was built. It is going to read differently, the same way that when we saw Black actors take on Death of a Salesman. They didn't change a single thing in Arthur Miller's script.
But it
when
changes
you look,
for the audience.
Right, but it changes for the audience because we come in with our own context and our own baggage about, oh, what must that have been? No one's going to talk about colorism, but it is going to be there for us to see.
Well, this revival breaks new ground by centering a Black family. It follows 5 previous Broadway productions that have proven Gypsy's timeless power. Michael, what makes it durable in your opinion?
It plays a fascinating trick on the audience. It begins as a standard book musical, where you see somebody who really wants something. Mama Rose, she wants her daughters to succeed. She wants to be in show business. And the traditional musical would play out. The obstacles are put in the way. They will overcome them, and they will succeed in the end. But by the end of the musical, what we realize it is about how unbridled ambition leads to rack, ruin, and in the end for Mama Rose, not succeeding and being completely alone. And it pulls that trick.
Juan?
It's a no-skip score. You know, every song is probably better than the last. And also every character has very clearly defined intentions, if not an outright I want song. So everyone is constantly hungry, everyone is constantly telling you or each other or themselves what it is they want and how they think they're gonna achieve it. And I think it's really exciting.
It's gonna come true.
To hear more of our discussion about the latest revival of Gypsy, be sure to watch the full episode of Theater All the Moving Parts. I'm Patrick Pacheco.
New York City is famous for plenty of famous residents, including some furry ones. A new exhibit at the New York Historical, previously the New York Historical Society, examines the relationship between people and pets in our hometown. New Yorkers are a special breed, and so are their pets. From pampered companions to hardworking horses, animals play a huge role in city life.
It's estimated that in New York City there are between 2 and 3 million pets. You can't quantify it.
Roberta Olson is the curator of a new exhibit called Pets and the City at the New York Historical on the Upper West Side. It examines the human-animal relationship and how that's evolved through works including art, photography, and memorabilia. And while dogs and cats are certainly featured, they aren't the only stars of this show. For example, consider the industrious squirrels who scurry through our parks.
They were pets, but they were domesticated. And actually, if you read, because there are no statistics about how many there were, but there are letters and diaries where people talk about squirrels. And they talk about how if you get them from the nest when they're young, they made very affectionate pets. And they were kept in the house. But remember, it was permeable. It was still an agrarian city. You still had lots of nature, so they probably went back and forth.
Another interesting and messy piece of animal history in our city?
It is estimated that there were, in 1900, 200,000 horses in Brooklyn and Manhattan alone. And just imagine, it is also estimated that each one produced at least 20 pounds of manure daily.
You might not know that pigs once roamed the streets, serving as wandering garbage disposals of sorts. Then there's this photo from a famous New York moment in 2003, when police discovered Ming the tiger in a Harlem apartment. The exhibit, on view through April 20th, also details the development of animal rights in the city and the history of working animals, including seeing eye and bomb-sniffing dogs. This poignant image of search and rescue dog Riley captures a day that forever changed New York.
He was one of many service dogs that burned their paws on the smoldering ruins of the Twin Towers. And they were tasked to go in to look for survivors and also to look for remains. He's being lifted out of the ruins. Notice that he has a protective vest on. You can also sense the nobility in the animal because he's just this amazing image of courage and resilience and, how shall we say it, survival.
What we see and feel in this exhibit is the unbreakable bond between people and animals, something Roberta knows well.
I have had every single animal as a pet in this entire exhibition, except for a tiger, an iguana, and a simian, a monkey.
So you've had a snake?
Yes,
several. You've had a horse?
Several.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, yes. Okay.
Have you had a squirrel?
Yes.
Finally, today we head back to the Museum of the City of New York for the 3rd annual Gingerbread NYC, the Great Borough Bake Off. Our production intern, Brittany Franco, has all the sweet-smelling details.
It may be getting cold outside, but the Museum of the City of New York is heating things up on 5th Avenue with their yearly competition, Gingerbread NYC, the Great Borough Bake Off. Filled with sugar, spice, and everything nice, the 3rd annual Gingerbread NYC is sure to get you in the holiday spirit. We spoke to Jerry Gallagher, the Chief Operating Officer for the Museum of the City of New York, about what you can expect at the exhibition.
So when people do come into the gallery, one of the first things that they're met with, in addition to how beautiful everything looks, is how wonderful it smells. And in fact, they can even smell it before they get to the gallery.
The Great Borough Bake Off tasked 20 bakers across the 5 boroughs to create gingerbread displays with the theme of iconic New York. Bakers more than met expectations with gingerbread constructions of landmarks and symbols representing their neighborhoods. For pieces to be considered for the Great Borough Bake Off, they need to be 100% edible. That means everything from floors, rocks, and grass to snow and windows. Though it might come as a surprise, the flavor of these cookie creations might not live up to their delicious smell.
And I think people would probably be a little dismayed if they tried to taste them. Even though they look wonderful and smell wonderful, the bakers have to use a special recipe to have the displays stand up a lot longer than they would normally in a home. So because of that, it may not taste as good as something that you would make at home.
Visitors can view many iconic landmarks in gingerbread, including the Empire State Building, Coney Island, the Lower Manhattan Oculus, and even the Williamsburg Savings Bank. While buildings are typically a top contender at the Bake Off, some New Yorkers thought outside the box, or in this case, inside the box.
So we have pizza represented in gingerbread. It looks just like pizza. We have a sanitation truck in front of a deli, totally iconic New York City. The sanitation truck is really decked out with garbage bags on the curb. It's in front of a deli, and the deli has an awning. There are fruits and vegetables in front. There are a couple of rodents making their way around the sanitation truck, so that's kind of interesting.
Each piece is much more meticulously detailed than meets the eye. Each icicle, stained glass window, and wreath are carefully added to the gingerbread as finishing touches that really bring them together. It's easy to miss at first glance, but if you look closely at Patty Lambrew's gingerbread recreation of Southern Boulevard in the Bronx, you'll see a gingerbread proposal. This engagement isn't just a cute addition, but rather an homage to the real-life love story of the baker herself.
One of my favorite displays has a wonderful little human interest story. The baker who made the display, she did Fordham University in the Bronx. They both went to Fordham, they met at Fordham. He proposed to her on the steps in front of the main building there, and so she did that building, and there are 2 little tiny gingerbread people, and the little gingerbread man is proposing to the gingerbread woman in front of the display. It's so sweet.
Speaking of sweet, the fun doesn't end there. You can be involved in selecting the final prize of People's Choice. At Gingerbread NYC, visitors are invited to vote for their favorite creation. On the gallery's iPad, just tap and scroll to the gingerbread you want to win the fan favorite final prize. The winner will be announced at the end of the exhibition.
You can see and smell the Great Borough Bake Off until January 12th. But remember, no touching or tasting. I'm Brittany Franco for Arts in the City.
That is our show for today. Thanks so much for joining us. A quick reminder to check us out on our new CUNY TV app and on social media. We'd love to hear from you. I'm Carol Ann Riddell. See you next time on Arts in the City, and happy holidays. Have a great new year.